Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and as promised, in the last video, a player, Ryan, has sent me a video into review. I'm not super familiar with Ryan's game, but I am familiar with Ryan in general, and I think he's a very solid player. What he hopes to get from having my review video, for me, is like, I think he's just being kind. I think he's just giving me a video to review. Ryan doesn't strike me as the sort of person who needs the kind of help that I have to offer, but nevertheless, it's really nice that he's submitted some content to me, and I'd be delighted to look at the video. I haven't watched it in advance, so I haven't given myself the opportunity to look and say, oh, that's the result of that hand. Let's say something really smart and clever and insightful and make myself look like a genius. I'm just going to say it as I see it, and if I get a few things wrong, then so be it. Just before we get going, the last video where I asked you guys to send videos in, some pseudo middle class fucking posh boy decided to insult my integrity, insult my play all day. I don't care. What have you? Tell me that I'm just a bum hunting Nate who can't be high again. I don't care about any of that. But please try not to insult my integrity in the channel. If you are going to insult me, please try and make it funny. And yeah, just let's not be having to delete comments and things from the channel. I don't want to do that. I'm not into censorship of any type. I'm pretty much a liberal, but at the same time, if people are just flat out being toxic and insulting my integrity, then it's my channel, and I'm just not going to allow it. So there you go. That person, if they're watching, they know who they are. By all means, insult me in amusing ways, but you know, if you're going to do it properly. Don't be fucking around. Anyways, that said, let's get into this video. Ryan is this for Duo 82. Don't think I played too much with him. I think I played heads up with him once, very briefly. Probably said something derogatory, I'm not sure. And then that was that. Then Ryan messaged me on Facebook and said that was me, dude. And something happened. I can't remember what it was. Something happened, and I said something I probably shouldn't have said in the chat box, but never mind. Ryan does have some notes at the side of the table with his tags on. I didn't show them because, as you can see, it's already upsetting my OCD with the fact that the table's out squared up and then there's like Ryan's desktop behind. But his tags are: yellow is nit, green is loose passive, light blue is low 3-bet regular, dark blue is high 3-bet regular, orange is balanced and solid, red is aggro donk, and this is my favourite, the purple, pink, whatever you want to call it, tag, if we see one, that just says slag, and I like that. I like the fact, I don't know what slag means. Could mean anything. I'd very much like Ryan to comment in the video, actually describe I don't know what slag means in like in a lot of terms. It's like a coal residue or whatever, and it's a derogatory term for a lady, but I'm not sure what it means in a poker sense. So Ryan, if you do watch this, which I'm presuming you will, please let us know exactly how you respond to players with the slag tag. So without further ado, let's get into it. Very trivial call here with the 10-9 suited, multi-way, of course. Nothing much you're going to be able to do here from the 2-hole. With 3-betting, 2 10s down here. This player's untagged, 27-16 over what looks like less than 100 hands, 80 hands. These 3-bets where people are like, is it a 30, not to 20 on the table? They 4x it and with 3-bet to 15x. I like this if we're willing to just go with it, and I don't know if Ryan is willing to go with it if the player like makes a 4-bet or jams. I think we need to go with it. If we're not going to be willing to go with it, then I think 3-betting here is probably like 3-betting to fold is probably, in my opinion, pretty big mistake. I'm presuming Ryan isn't 3-betting to fold here, but against a 27-16, pretty big gap in that VPIP PFR. I think when these guys who have these big VPIPs, albeit we have to be wary of small sample size, who have these like relatively big gaps between the VPIP and PFR, I think when they do 4-bet, I think pocket tens is probably going to be fucked. but at the same time you probably can't. It's just 3-betting to 15 bigs and folding pre-flop to these guys. We're not starting out particularly deep, so I'm not too concerned about that. So yeah, I think obviously Ryan knows what he's doing, so I'm not critiquing Ryan's play here. But if you are if you are 3-betting things like this pre-flop yourselves, just be aware that if it's gone 4x and then you're making it 15x, you probably don't want to be doing too much folding to 4-bets in them situations, in my opinion. I would be much more inclined to flat this a lot of the time versus someone with these stats personally, but that's just my style. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with 3-betting. Right, here we go. This is something I'd do different to Ryan too. We have currently a 41/9, albeit over a very small sample size. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see a lot of these numbers in the video. Look what looks like 30 something hands. And Ryan's min raising the button. Now, I have no issue with min raising from the button in general, but this is where I think we can move into something that's more exploitable rather than using the same sizes all the times, which when you're playing in tough games against good players who are going to pick up on things really quickly, you need to do, because otherwise you're going to become very exploitable. I think when we got a 41/9 in the big blind, I think this is where I'd be looking to make it 3x with my stronger stuff and smaller with my weaker stuff. And also, depending on what we think of the big blind, if the big blind's going to be quite squeeze happy, maybe then we have to stick to our min raise sizing. But unless we think the big blind's the sort of player that gets out of line a lot, I think we can certainly look to target the fish here and not worry too much about getting 3-bet and facing 3-bets. So I think here I would personally rather go bigger with a view to trying to get into a bigger pot with the strong hand versus this weak, what very likely weak range that the calling ranges player is going to have. And if we get 3-bet, then so be it. We lose one extra big blind pre-flop when we open and fold. With the extra money we make post-flop when he doesn't 3-bet and this guy calls. So therefore we get to play slightly bigger pot in position. Is not to be underestimated. It's only one big blind pre-flop, but that can make quite a big difference to like the value we can get post-flop when we do have the best hand against this player. Rather than going to a flop with 5 blinds in the pot, we're going to a flop with 7 blinds in it, then we can like c-bet 2 blinds more on the flop usually on average, which means it's going to be like a slightly bigger pot on the turn, and by the time the river comes we can make an extra 10 or 11 big blinds just for our extra 1 big blind investment pre-flop. Obviously it doesn't work out exactly that way, but it's just something to consider when you've got like a really weak player in the blinds, especially on 888 when you don't find too many of these weak players. When they are there, I think we need to be looking or focusing on exploiting them more than we're focusing on protecting ourselves by using the same sizes pre-flop. That's just my thoughts. Ryan may well have different thoughts on it, but yeah, we want to be looking to build bigger pots when we've got fish at the table, especially loose passive fish. Try and make some like bigger pre-flop sizing so we can extract more value post-flop. So Ryan's taking the line I rarely take. He's going for the pre-flop 3-bet with the small pocket pair from the small blind. And this is something that I know a lot of people do. I'm not into it personally. I think I don't think people fold enough to like make it super profitable pre-flop in terms of fold equity. And then oftentimes we'd just be left with like a really weak hand post flop and nothing really that much we can do. I prefer to just either fold these usually or flat them if I think the big blind's not particularly active. Looking at the stats we got here, we got 25/20. Not sure where the 3-bet stat is on here. Small sample, but it looks like he's going to be some kind of like competent semi-aggressive regular. So I'll probably just fold in this spot. If this was moved to this table and this player had opened from the button and we had this guy in the big blind, then I will be flatting 100% of the time and looking to try and flop a set. It's going to be interesting to see what Ryan does up at this table against a 71.43 dude. I think 3-betting versus this guy, in my opinion, would be a pretty big mistake. We've got another fishy player in the small blind, so I understand why Ryan's done it here. He's got pretty loose aggressive 39.26 button opening and a tight aggressive and a pretty aggressive rig in the blinds. So I get 3-bet or fold at this table. I think up at this table, I think taking the same line would be way less profitable, especially given that the value of flopping a set versus people who play 71.43 and 40.36 is going to be much, much higher. So here, again, I'm kind of on board with the 3-bet or fold, usually leading to fold personally. Up here, I'm not on board with it at all, and I think I would much prefer to flat. So let's see what Ryan does. Ryan goes for the 3-bet again at both tables. And then we've missed. And this is, and again, I'm not going to criticise Ryan at all because I know Ryan's a competent player. But I think this is where we can slip in and out of like taking the same lines all the time with the same hands. I much prefer to try and take different lines based on like the situation of my opponents. Ryan clearly doesn't do that, and that's completely up to Ryan. But for me, the 4-4 down here in the small blind is very different to the 4-4 up here in the small blind. I think the situations are markedly different, and I think it's worth considering taking very different lines with the same hand when you have very different situations. 71.43 and 40.36 versus a 39.26 and a 25.20. They're very different situations, and I think it merits playing our hand in a very different way. Again, that's my style thing. Lots of people who are trying to play a more like balanced GTO, unexploitable game, will disagree with me. But yeah, that's my take, and we're not going to milk it too much further. Hopefully, I've explained my thoughts on the situation well enough. Really, not a big fan of this C-bet. Don't know if it's going to work or not. It didn't work because this is going to happen too much. I mean, we're playing against someone 71.43. They don't have to hit that board, but they're just not into folding. Are they going to fold as pair there? Are they going to fold pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s? Probably not. If they got an ace or a king, you're not getting them off it with a crowbar. Yeah, for me, I didn't like the C-bet. In theory, of course, we've got a huge range advantage. We've got way more ace-x, kings and things like that in our range than he has. So I get it from a theoretical standpoint. I just think in practice, it doesn't work anywhere near as well as we would like it to. I think we should just lead for pot here on this table, this bottom table. We flopped 2 pair in a limped pot versus a 40/8. I think we're missing value by min betting here, but we're also just not building a pot where we can get bigger value on later streets. I would have just gone, but if not pot there, I would have definitely made it 40. As luck would have it, we've been raised here, so we just get to put a 3-bet in hopefully, and I'd make a pretty damn big 3-bet too. If this guy does have a queen, he is not folding. It's very unlikely he has 2 pairs, given the board texture. Very unlikely he has a set, because we know we've got a 5 and a 4, which most likely sets will be 4s and 5s, just one combination of each of them. And if he's got a hand like queen 10, queen jack, queen king, ace queen, 6, 7, things like that, he's not going to fold any of those hands. So I'd be looking to make this up to around $283. If I knew more about this player, we could maybe go slightly bigger still. If we knew he's the sort of player who's just like a real station user, if we think he's never folding a queen, we just need to go really big and then bomb the turn. Given his raise, I just don't think he's going to have too many bluffs in his range here. The problem is he might have a hand like 8, 8, 9, 9 and just be like raising to find out where he's at. If he's that type of player, then raising isn't good, but we're not going to win a huge pot from him anyway with those types of hands. So I just hope here he has Queen X, and I'd be looking to make a pretty big raise here to at least $3. And that's probably too small. He folds anyway, so it makes no difference. On table 1, we have a gut shot, Didn't notice what happened pre-flop. Let's just rewind it back a little bit. So it's at 30 NL table. We just flattened out the big blind, which I think is completely fine. I think I like a check raise here rather than the check. We're going to fold or call, I'm not sure. But we got low end of a gut shot, backdoor wheel draw, backdoor diamonds. I think we're going to continue here. I much prefer continuing with a raise. Probably make it quite big too. Bump it up here to around like $182. And then probably if we get called, only proceed on good cards for us, diamonds, sixes, threes, and give up on the rest. But I'd prefer a raise here to a call for sure. And now we just have to probably give up, I guess. I think I like a bluff here. Yeah, he's going for it. Our opponent could just have like a lot of, I don't know, 7x that might fold, 8x that might fold unlikely. Just some like worse draws than those, stuff like 10 jack, 10 9. Some ace eyes that would just stab in. It's going to have lots of stuff here that's just going to fold if we bet. We chose a pretty reasonable sizing too. We get picked off here, tough tits for us. We get picked off, but it's literally like the absolute worst time we're going to get to this river with like this played like this. So I like the bluff, and it works. We take it down. Happy days. Happy with just giving up here with the queen 10. No pair, no draw. It's not good for us. I think back up here on table 2, we have a 28-19 opening from the cutoff to 3x. Don't know anything about this playing the big blind, but we do know his stack size is likely to mean he's not going to be a good player. I think we can sometimes consider flatting here or 3-betting maybe. I think king 10 suited versus the cutoff opens. I think just choosing to fold it, I don't think that's the best decision. I think we need to be trying to play this in some capacity. If the big blind's good and aggressive, maybe we can just use it as a 3-bet bluff. If the big blind is what's likely to be like loose and passive here with this stack size, I think we can just call here, expect not to get squeezed a lot, and then just have like a pretty playable hand multi-way. I think folding here is just a little bit too tight. I think I'd be looking to play it in one way or another. We almost found the call, and then we found the fold. We have 2 9s here. How are we going to play this one, Ryan? Ryan goes with a 3-bet, which obviously I like against someone playing this loose and aggressive with this stack size. And I like the flop, so let's consider what we can be doing here on this flop. Against someone who's bad and aggressive, or potentially bad and aggressive, I think I like to either bet super small here or check. Look at the pot already. We've got like an SPR of like whatever it is, 2.5, something like that. So it doesn't matter if we miss a bet on one street here. It's not if we were like over 100 blinds deep still, then we can't really miss a bet. We need to start trying to build the pot, but we can get the money in over 2 streets here. So I would very much like to see us check this with a review to just check calling and then checking turn. If he doesn't do anything, just jam river ourselves. But I think I'd really like a check here, mostly due to the SPR and the fact our opponent might be somewhat aggressive. So I think I like a check here. If we are going to bet, then really small, like, I don't know, what's $1.20, something like that, 1/3 pot, 1/4 pot even, maybe like 90 cents, something like that. We get called. See, now the sizing issue is a bit awkward because we've got like an SPR is 1.5. Looks like Ryan's going to go with a 1/3 of his stack bet. What size? Right? Had I bet the flop, I mean, if we go like $2 here, leaves us 70% on the river. I wouldn't go the $3 Ryan's going here. I'd be like looking at 220, 240. then that would leave us with like on the river $11 in the pot, $7 in his stack. So I think I go slightly smaller than Ryan's going to go here, and that should we just jam the river. Happy days, felt tens, lovely jubbly. That's what we like to see. I was going to like Ryan's triple there, I think, but he decided not to do it. Get it on that board, you know. You're not going to get someone for 7 or a king, and our outs could be dead, but I still think I probably would have gone for it. Maybe that's a leak of mine. Let's go back to this A6 suited because it looks like it could be a fun one. So we've got a loose passive player opening here, and we're defending the A6 suited as we should, although we need to understand that we're probably quite a way behind a decent amount of the time. I think with the pocket 7C, just to digress a little bit, blind versus blind, I would probably just fold. No, not versus 64-29, no, scratch that. Versus regular, I think I'd open and fold pocket 7s. The rate's just too high. We're out of position blind versus blind. We're not guaranteed to get all our money if we flop a set because it's likely to have like relatively wide 3-betting range. And if this pot develops, we'll go back on the crit separately because we do have a pair and a gut shot too. But for now, we'll focus on the A6. We've obviously flopped pretty damn well. Open ender and a flush draw. I think versus this player though, I mean, this is a spot where I would frequently go for check raises and just be happy to get all the money in. But versus somebody who's quite loose passive, who I don't expect to have like a particularly wide and weak c-betting range, where you just c-bet, I think we're going to have a lot less fold equity. So against these types of players, I usually like just taking my pot odds and trying to make a hand, rather than trying to semi-bluff and rely on some fold equity, because I just don't think we have as much fold equity against 40/11s as we would against a regular in this spot. So I'm not going to rely too much on fold equity. I'm just going to rely pretty much solely on pot equity and implied odds. Let's see what Ryan does. He's gone for the check rate. I understand why. Oh, he didn't go for it. I understand why the temptation was there. When he bets 20 cents, there's a massive temptation to put the raise in. And I think maybe even I would have considered doing it versus that sizing, just to try and fold out ace king, ace queen, things like that. Now as it happens, there's a chance we have the best hand. Definitely looking just to check call on this turn. And I think we could just check call here, and I think it's hard. I'm sorry that the jacks come up there. It's hard to get value from worse, which is the point I was trying to make before the video skipped on. It's going to be hard to get called by worse. I wasn't thinking this guy had pocket jacks. That's fucking ludicrous that he raises jacks and just gets like 1/20 betting on the flop and the turn on that board. I was thinking he had stuff like ace king, ace queen, king queen, things like that. That couldn't probably call a bet, but could definitely like maybe put a small bluff in. I would definitely have used the A6 as a bluff catcher there. Not because I think my opponent has a lot of like hands he's going to bluff with, but I don't think he's going to call with worse very often. And I think he might just take another stab with the likes of ace king, ace queen, king jack, things like that. So I wouldn't have bet that river. I would just have checked and probably called a bet, because I just don't think my opponent's got anything. So I don't think you can call a bet with a worse hand. But at the same time, I don't think he's got anything very strong. As it happens, he has jacks. But I was thinking he just had like unmatched high cards that he might take a small stab with. So that was going to be my plan there, was going to be to check call. Maybe I would have lost more than Ryan. Maybe if we checked, he would have bet bigger and I would have lost more. We'll never know, I guess. And we're going to rewind back to look at this track now, because it looks like it is getting somewhat interesting. So then we're looking at this table here. Defend the jack 9 off, which I think is marginal. We flop a pair and a gut shot, easy call. Turn, not the nuts, but obviously very strong. I think I would have led that turn there. I think players are going to check back a hell of a lot on that board. And I would just bet just to get some value. I don't think we're going to be like. I mean, maybe if the guy's psychotic, we can just check call, and make some money that way. But I think when boards change dramatically on the turn, I'm up against an unknown player, and they change in a way that favours me. I'm just going to lead out a lot. I expect that turn to go check a lot. It did in this occasion. I would have led out, and I would have just led out the river too. Anyway, as played, Ryan now goes for a bet on the river. He gets raised. I don't think there's much to do other than probably just call here. If we 3-bet here, say we 3-bet to, I don't know, say $8 something to try and get some extra value. I don't think we're going to get any action from a worse hand. Well, not the kind of action we're not going to get called by a worse hand very often at all, I don't think. Maybe if he's terrible, some 2 pairs call. But how often is 2 pairs at raise call in this river? Probably almost never. So I would just call here personally, because if we 3-bet and we get jammed on, we're in a really gross spot where we're going to be chopping or worse most of the time. So I would just wimp out and call here. Let's see what Ryan does. Ryan does just call and he catches the bluff. Ryan seems to be good at flopping sets. Right, so we've been check raised here. I would just pile it in here. Looks like Ryan's going to call. I would just pile it in. If the guy's, fair enough. If he's got air, he's folding. Do I think someone off this stack size who's check raising this board has air very often? No. I think usually they've got something they're going with, like Jack X or draws. I wouldn't fuck around here with a call and then see some bad turns roll off and either have my opponent get scared or things get a little bit less comfortable for us. I would just pile it in here. It's very unlikely this guy's folding. He did fold the river, which suggests he was on a draw more than, well, either a draw or air on the flop. But when he got check raise flop, check call turn, it leans way more towards draw than it does anything else. I think if we jam that flop, I think we get it all. As it happens, I think we've left a few quid on the table there. I could be wrong, of course. I'm not going to comment too much on the heads up hand on table 4 versus a regular, because my heads up game versus regulars is fucking atrocious, and I tend not to indulge in them situations. I'll table start happily on Sky. If a regular sits me, I just don't play them. No interest in playing regulars heads up. I'm just trying to get good games going with bad players, not into heads up versus regulars in any shape or form. This guy is 3-betting. Second time he's 3-bet as pre-flop. It could just be sample size. It might just be that he's just had 2 reasonable hands. But he's 3-bet pretty quick both times. It could be that it looks quicker than it is because we are watching the video back at an increased speed. But it looks like he's maybe a little bit crazy too. 65-43. Albeit we are playing short-handed. I'd be looking to limp call these types of hands against somebody who I thought was maybe somewhat aggressive blind versus blind. I think I would quickly adjust to limping a big part of my range versus these types of players and not looking to raise and get 3-bet too often. That's just a personal style thing. If Ryan's comfortable in these situations and he's good at them, then clearly that's a decision for Ryan to make. But for most of you guys who maybe aren't too good playing 3-bet pots out of position, and they're going to lead to like overfolding or calling too much and then getting lost post flop. But you can start limping some of these types of hands, in my opinion, into these types of players looking to play post flop. As played, we've got one over card, a gut shot, nothing much else going on here. I haven't been paying attention to what his c-bet strategy's been. If this player's a player who c-bets too much, and by too much I mean like 60%, 70% or more, I could consider going for a check raise here just to fold out like ace, queen, things like that. Maybe some small pairs and what have you that he's just stabbing with. If he had like a low c-bet, sort of overall low c-bet, then I would probably just check and give up. I think now we just need to bet twice with our king 10. I don't like just giving up here. I think if we're going to defend these hands and then not stab turns when flops check. I mean, this is a spot where I would just, if I defended this hand, which I wouldn't do very often, but if I did, I'd just bet turn, bet river now. And if he looks me up with 9x, pocket 8s, whatever, then good for him. We just take the note, we move on. But yeah, I think we should definitely, once this flop checks through, I think to make this defend profitable pre-flop, I think we need to be trying to take some of these pots down, post up when he shows weakness and we have like little bits and bobs of equity. So here on table 4 against someone who looks pretty fucking bad, we flopped pair, no kicker and a flush draw. Temptation here can just be to go crazy and just like check raise with a view to getting it in. I don't think I like that again against these bad players. I prefer to just like take my pot odds, make a hand, then try and extract value rather than rely on too much fold equity. Be interested to see what line Ryan takes. I'd be more than 2/3 pot. I'd be jamming here for sure. That's the spirit. There we go. Easy peasy, certain greasy. Right, so let's go back to this 10-7. Looks like we don't 3-bet this hand pre-flop. So we're 3-betting the pocket 4s versus this player. We're not 3-betting the 10-7. Not sure what to make of that, to be honest with you. I probably need to give it more thought than we have time to on this video. I would probably fold here. I think versus the 3x open. We do have the fish in the big blind, but I think I'm just a little bit too disconnected for my tastes to want to call here. I certainly wouldn't 3-bet the hand. I think I'll probably just fold here. Tempted to continue because of the fish, but I'd much rather like flat hand like pocket 4s here. That's going to be like really easy to play post flop versus this fish than flat hand like this. Ryan elects to go for the flat here. And I think on this board we just need to be check raising. Looks like Ryan's going for the check call. What I much prefer a check raise. It's a reasonable board for our hand. A reasonable board for our range. Not a great board for his range. We think we have the gut shot to the nuts. We have the backdoor flush draw to fall back on. I think this should definitely be a raise in my opinion. Don't like continuing with gut shots versus this sizing for a call. If I was going to raise, I'd raise it up to like 280, 320, something like that. If we get raised, if we get 3-bet, then we just have to fold our hand, of course. But I think that's better play than calling here. And I like the line Ryan stuck with the 7C. I think we have to fold. I think we have to call river if he bets again. Hate paying off triple barrels, but this guy looks bad and aggressive enough where I think folding 7C would probably be a mistake. Happy days. That is a nice looking picture, Ryan. That looks nice. Looks like you have a nice life away from the tables, which is clearly nice. Beautiful to see. Gotta love seeing that. Interesting, Ryan. You've got notice a potential sizing telly because when we 3-bet the 4s earlier versus this guy in this exact same situation, we didn't go with the 240. Now, this might just be you not caring that you have a sizing tell. I'm not sure. I like the sizing, but I like the sizing in general. If we're going to 3-bet the 4s, I would like to use this size with the 4s as well. I have no issue whatsoever with this sizing, but I do have a slight issue with the fact you're sizing differently with different hands versus someone who might be a regular. And obviously we just jam now and take our cool like a man if it is one. Do not like to defend with the ace deuce versus the maniac's 3-bet. I just don't think ace deuce is going to play super well in these spots. How big did he make it? He made it not that big. It's 13L table. Maybe we don't like it. I thought it was a 20L table. I thought we were calling 12 bigs. I guess I don't hate it. Well, in fact, we can't for 150, so ignore that. But obviously we have a clear give up in this situation now. And squeezed here with the 9s versus the 38-26. I don't think we can call here. I think we either like jam to re-isolate and get 50 bigs in with 9s. Don't think this guy's likely to be too weak, to be completely honest, in a multi-way pot. I think he's very likely to have decent equity, or perhaps even have us crushed if we get it in. Don't like calling though. So depending on what, if anything, I knew about this player, I'd be looking to just like 3-bet here, 4-bet, and just get it in. Hope one of these guys, or both these guys, fuck off with the 4-bet. Because if we 4-bet and these guys continue, then 9s are probably fucked. But by then we're probably in too deep. I suspect I'd make a pretty nitty fold here. But if I wasn't going to make a nitty fold, then I'd just be looking to 4-bet and try and isolate the guy. But if we're going to just flop boats like there's no tomorrow, Ryan, if I knew I had Ryan's skill at flopping sets, then clearly I would be looking to just call. But I guess I'm just being a bit flippant there. Yeah, I think folding or getting it in is going to be better pre. Wow, another fucking unbelievable. Is that like the 4th fucking set? Ryan's flopped in 21 minutes 67 seconds. Must be fucking nice, Ryan. And when you're not flopping sets, you're flopping massive combo draws. Let's all learn to run like Ryan. That's what I say. I think I would probably raise here really small, given that we are pretty deep. Um, if we just called here, we would be left with like still 2x pot on the river. I'd make a really small raise, possibly even smaller than that. But you made it 360. I'd make it like 820, something like that, just to like make him feel really priced in with any draws that you might have to call. Um, yeah, I wouldn't go quite that big. I don't think we need to go quite that big. If we go this size and he calls, it's going to leave us with 14 in our stack. Yeah, I think we can go a bit smaller here. I guess it's not a big issue. But I would go a tiny bit smaller personally. And we got the fold, which is unfortunate. I think I had to bluff that river too with the 9-7. Not a huge fan if we open the 6-5 off here. There's just two players who seem pretty loose. 6-5 off just doesn't play very well at all post flop. I think we can just fold this hand. I think given we're in a relatively high rake environment and we have two players in the blinds who would, at least one of them looks pretty likely to defend. I personally wouldn't open this hand. I think it's too weak. Doesn't have enough post flop playability. We get 3-bet, now we have to call because it's a world's shittest 3-bet. Don't think I'm going to like this. Yeah, and we just end up. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan, I didn't like that one, mate. A little bit ugly, that one, I think. Presuming we're check shipping this river. Didn't get a chance to. Didn't get a chance to check ship the river on table 2, table 3, 4, whichever one, however I describe it. I think I just continue checking the 8-9 on table 2. And that's disappointing river. Probably have to check fold it now, I would guess. But we win anyway. So we are 5 minutes from the end of Ryan's recording. Hopefully we get in a couple more interesting spots before then and the video doesn't just taper out into nothing much happening with not much comment. I go call here with the force to set mine given someone's already limped. Ryan elects to fold it. So here we face a 3-bet from pretty loose aggressive player over a reasonable sample size, but his 3-bet is just way too small. We need to defend this, I guess. Problem is he doesn't have that much money. But against this player, I think I would probably defend this 5-6 suited. I know we talked earlier about 5-6 off. I think 5-6 suited just has that a little bit more playability post flop, and this player has like, we're gonna be able to get some fold equity post flop versus this guy who looks like he's more aggressive. I mean, lots of boards that are going to connect with us enough where we can run some semi bluffs. So I think we'd probably need to defend this. Much rather he was deeper stack though. And Ryan is going for the fold. Temptation would definitely get the better of me in that spot. Looks like Ryan's winding his session up. I think with the 10-9 there, I think I would have probably just stabbed to reasonable board for us. We don't have any showdown value, any chance of winning. Well, we have some chance of winning if we turn like a 9 or a 10 or something, but I think I'd just bet that flop. And then if a turn like this came down, I would continue like a 9, 10, Jack, 7. We can continue in some way on all of those boards, on all those cards. I think we should definitely make a bet now if our opponent checks and call if he bets. Now let's go for the raise. That's a bit spicy. Haven't seen this from you so far, Ryan. He calls, which is obviously disappointing, and we break. I think we'd probably obliged to try and bluff this river, unless he leads into us. If he leads into us, we just fold and enjoy life that he's not trapping us in a bluff. Trapping us into a bluff, sorry, should I say. I like that. The dog toy and the baby toy living in perfect harmony together. Lovely stuff. So thank you very much, Ryan, for the video. Really, really do appreciate you sending that to us. And I hope I've at least given you pause for thought, Ryan, and given you a couple of things to think about. And I hope the rest of you guys who maybe don't play those games too often or play a little bit lower or what have you, I hope you guys have got something too. This is going to be the format for most of my videos going forward. As I've discussed already, I'm not intending on making live play videos. Who knows? I mean, you never know with me. That might change, but it's very unlikely I'm going to be doing too many live play videos. I do have another video that a gentleman sent me that I'm going to review probably in a few days. Depending on when I get the time, maybe I'll review it tonight, but then just not upload the video till the weekend. But please do keep the videos coming in. If you'd like me to see me do this with one of your videos, then please just record around 30 minutes of your play, and I'll be delighted to review it. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.